In 1780 there were more than 300,000 Native Americans living in California. They represented over 100 tribes, a diverse collection of societies with distinct cultures and traditions. California's native people believed they were part of the land itself, part of a balance with nature. By 1849, the mania for gold swept through the United States and triggered a stampede for California. With the lure of instant wealth in front of them, the new settlers wanted little to do with the Native Americans. The Native American population dropped tremendously. The Act for the Government and Protection of Indians passed on April 22, 1850, by the California legislature. The Act of the Government for the Protection of Indians was inhumane because it took away Native Americans' freedom and made them an easy target of becoming a slave. On January 24, 1848, James W. Marshall discovered gold at a sawmill in Colma that he was constructing for John Sutter, who was a wealthy land developer from the Sacramento Valley. James Marshall had discovered gold unexpectedly while overseeing construction of a sawmill on the American River. The discovery of gold in California is what started, as we all know today, the Gold Rush. Once news hit the stands everywhere in 1849, it began one of the largest human migrations in history, as 500,000 people from around the world descending upon California in search of instant wealth. They became known as the 49ers. The effects of the gold rush were substantial. San Francisco grew from a small settlement to a boomtown, and roads, churches, schools, and other towns were built throughout California. A system of laws and a government were created, leading to the admission of California as a free state in 1850. The population of San Francisco exploded from 1,000 residents in 1848 to 25,000 full-time residents by 1850. Unfortunately, not everyone benefited from the California Gold Rush. The human and environmental costs of the gold rush were substantial. Native Americans, who depended on traditional hunting and gathering, became the victims of starvation and disease, as gravel, silt, and toxic chemicals from prospecting operations killed fish and destroyed habitats. The public attitude of the time could be best summarized in this editorial from Eureka Herald. Now that general hostilities against the Indians have commenced, we hope the government will render such aid as will enable the citizens of the North to carry on a war of extermination until the last redskin of these tribes has been killed. Extermination is no longer a question of time. The time has arrived, the work has commenced, and let the first man that says treaty or peace be regarded as a traitor. No group suffered as much from the gold rush as California's native people did. Before the California Gold Rush, there was an estimated number that ranged from 310,000 to 705,000 Native Americans. Then, when gold was discovered, the population of native people in California had fallen to 100,000 due to the mission system and diseases introduced by foreign settlers. The remaining Indian population was decimated during the gold rush. At the first state constitutional convention, those assembled voted to eliminate the Indians' right to vote because they feared the control Indians might exercise. In 1850, an Act for the Government and Protection of Indians was enacted by the first session of the state legislature and was the American approach to dealing with the Indians. The name of the act sounds completely harmless. As I read a few lines from the act, think to yourself, if you were a Native American during this time, how protected would you feel? Some may argue that California prohibited slavery in any form. According to historian Rawls, California embraced a system in which any able-bodied Indians were liable to arrest on the complaint of any resident if they could not support themselves, or were found loitering or strolling about, or were leading an immoral or profligate course of life. If it was determined by proper authority that an Indian was a vagrant, he or she could be hired out within 24 hours for the highest price for any term not exceeding 4 months. As a result of the Act for the Government and Protection of Indians, all Indians, especially children, face an unfair servitude effected through a simple procedure of arrest and assignment through any local justice of the peace. More than 3,000 Indian children were captured in Northern California and sold into slavery for $50 to $200 apiece. California's legal apprentice system allowed settlers to keep homeless or jobless Indians indentured until they were 30. The result of the Act for the Government and Protection of Indians was a profitable slave trade for the white man. However, this law was widely abused with regard to the use of Indians as laborers. Unfortunately, the Act progressively worsened and continued until finally, in 1866, when the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution was created, and the Indians gained their freedom back.